So as some of you may know, I've been using the iPhone XR for some time now, and while I have already published my full long-term review of the iPhone XR, which you can check out up there, I wanted to make a quick list of some personal highlights of the XR, at least in my opinion. So today, here are my top 5 reasons as to why you might want to consider the iPhone XR in 2020. The first major pull in my opinions really comes down to the price to performance that the iPhone XR offers. Refurbished, you can pick this thing up for around $400 nowadays, which, all things considered, this is pretty great. For that $400, you get some amazing operating system support, because as this was released with iOS 12, and iPhones typically get 5 versions of iOS, for the time being at least, this thing's going nowhere. Okay, so OS support considered, how well does the iPhone XR run? So this includes both the OS and the apps. Spoiler alert, pretty well. Scrolling through the OS was a pretty stellar experience. Seeing as this isn't a particularly new phone, there aren't any growing pains, but it's not old enough to have any issues with the OS. It's stable, it's intuitive, and all in all, it's a pretty great experience. Apps like social media and games also run really well on this phone. In general, iPhones do already run social media apps pretty well as it is, but on the XR, it's been very smooth, camera functions have worked well, and all in all, it's been great in regards to performance when gaming. This has also been pretty great. I've tried out all kinds of games on this thing, had a lot of fun while doing it. I've realized in that process that this thing has no problems playing games. All in all, for what you spend, you get a whole lot of performance with the iPhone XR, and I personally think this is one of the best price to performance iPhones on the market right now. The next thing that I really like about the iPhone XR is simply the battery life. For a 2018 phone, so long as you make sure that you get one with good battery life, you can get some really good performance out of this thing. I actually just did a video on what to look for when buying a refurbished phone. You can check that out up there. It's not one of my videos unless I do that at least once. Probably. I've also got full bonus tips in that video as to what to look for when buying a refurbished phone, so if you are planning on getting this phone refurbished, which I always recommend, then it might be worth checking that one out. I always get through a full day with this thing, and I usually have a little bit left before I need to go plug it in late at night. Standby preservation is also excellent, so if you keep your phone in your pocket for long periods of time, it should last a really long time before you need to plug it in again. Now, some people have speculated this because of the screen, but still, in my opinion, battery life is battery life, and on the XR, battery life kind of rocks. Next up, we have something I personally didn't think I'd like. Simply put, the screen size. The iPhone XR has a 6.1-inch screen, which is the same size as the newer iPhone 11, and is somewhere between the 5.8-inch standard models and the 6.46-inch Max models. As someone who's never really been a fan of the Plus or Max models, simply because they're just a bit big for my hands, being able to use a physically bigger screen for the first time and while still being able to comfortably hold it was really nice. Granted, it's not as high resolution and it's only an LED panel when compared to the higher resolution OLED panels of the flagship models. This median size is comfortable to use, makes typing easy, and means that watching movies or playing games can be done on a nice big screen, which, while I was using this phone, was something that I thoroughly enjoyed. Now, I initially did think I was going to drop it more, so that is something you should consider, especially if you're like me, and again, hands. But if you get like a grippy case or a pop socket, then this shouldn't really be an issue. And all in all, I found the 6.1-inch screen size to be a good sweet spot between too big and too small. Don't get me wrong, I still personally prefer the 5.8-inch screen, but again, all preference, and I do find the screen size to be good nonetheless. Following on, we have the build quality. The iPhone XR, as I said in my review, is a really premium feeling phone with glass and 7000 series aluminium construction. I personally think that while it can make a phone feel a bit more breakable, having a glass back is one of those ways that you can just make your phone feel 10 times more premium. And of course, while it does significantly increase the breakability factor, you can always add on and then take off a case. For example, I've got the one that came free with the phone, but you can't take off a permanently fixed ugly design. It also does feature that IP67 water resistance, which is really nice as it means it can survive in a meter of water for up to 30 minutes. And as always, while I don't recommend relying on this, that added level of protection is really nice. All in all, I stand by what I said earlier and think that the iPhone XR is a really nice, well-built phone with premium materials, and this just adds to that whole user experience. Something else I like that I wasn't expecting to like was the camera. Yeah, it does only have one focal point, and yeah, the portrait mode is crippled, which I personally take more of an issue with than the single focal length, but I think as single camera lens systems go, this is pretty much as good as it gets. The images all come out nice and sharp with a really good amount of dynamic range, and while it's not as saturated as the other single lens option, namely the iPhone SE 2020, I personally think that the image from this thing actually holds up really well, even today. I also like the app a lot better than the app on the iPhone SE, because that had that really weird way of taking burst photos. You had to hold and then slide across. If you just like traditionally hold like you would on the iPhone XR, then it'll start taking a video, and I really didn't like that. So yeah, while on the old app, it is significantly harder to change video modes, I personally think that's kind of worth it for the way the burst mode works. Speaking of video, this thing shoots 4K at up to 60 FPS, which I personally love, as it means you can slow it down to 24 FPS and get a really high resolution, a really smooth looking cinematic shot. As I said before, I've personally used this 4K footage in my videos before as B-cam footage, and while it's certainly not of the quality of something like this, it is certainly passable. So while the camera as a whole is pretty limited, especially compared to some of the newer options, I still believe most people don't need a ton of features. And again, for most people, this is going to be totally fine. Overall, as I said at the start, in my time using the iPhone XR, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And while it's not my personal favorite phone I've ever used, I do think that this very well could be for a lot of people. It's a nice balance of features and price, and it also provides a modern yet affordable entry point to the notched iPhone line. So if you want that or anything else I've mentioned in this video, then it might be worth checking out the iPhone XR. Alright guys, so that's it for today. As always, thank you for watching. Remember to like the video if you want to see more content like this, and smash that subscribe button. I'm done for now, and I will see you guys in the next one.